Welcome to the 6th installment of the WMC Porchast. I'd even call this Season 2, Episode 2 for those podcast followers out there. We're here at Casa de Baden tonight. The Badens, Corey and Amy, were gracious enough to invite us out to the porch, and we've got a great episode today. This is the back-to-school edition of the WMC Porchcast, and I think I can still call this back-to-school season. You know, it's temperatures are still in the 90s. We've even hit some 100s. We're still in week 1 or 2 of football season, so, you know, of course, the Aggies haven't gotten counted out yet.
We're making this an Aggie podcast.
I'm sorry. I had it was in me. And even progress reports haven't even come home yet. And, you know, and I will say that in my case, when I was in school, I'm not sure if those progress reports ever made it back home. But in all seriousness, our schools are so important to the families of WMC. I'd say it's our fabric of the community and of the neighborhood. And for most of us, it's the reason why we bought a house here. We decided to raise our families here. And in the case of Cammie and I, it will be the place where they will erect a 10-foot tall statue after spending 19 years at SBISD schools. I counted that up. It's a true statement there. So today we're going to dive into some topics for and about academics and families. We're going to talk about technology and all the things that go into the school year. And so, disclaimer for the listeners out there or the watchers, we will not be diving into youth sports in this episode. That will be its own episode. We've got enough to unpack there. We plan to focus on that topic, so don't worry. But we're going to be talking about some of the other elements that go with the academic calendar. But what we can do is start unpacking today's topic. And before we do that, I want to do some quick introductions of today's guests. So, first of all, I want to turn it over to Chuck Bates. Chuck.
What's up? I'm Chuck Bates. I moved into Nottingham in 2020. Been a part of Wilchester's Men Club for, I guess this will be my 3rd year. Got a son at Memorial Middle School and a daughter at Stratford.
Nice. All right. Josh Hopper.
So we bought into the neighborhood in 2010, but my wife actually grew up here and graduated from Stratford. So she's been a part of this neighborhood for quite some time. I have 2 daughters that are at Stratford now and a son that's got his first year at MMS going on right now. I happen to be a teacher in Spring Branch, so I teach at Springwoods Middle School, which is on the north side. And I'm affiliated with the men's club. I was on the board for more years than I care to talk about. And just happy to be here.
Awesome. Cade.
Hi, Cade White. I've been in the neighborhood since approximately 2013. I was thinking about that today. I have twin daughters that are freshmen at Stratford High School. One's a cheerleader. One is a Spartaner. And we're real happy to be here. We've been part of the men's club, or at least I've been part of the men's club since I moved into the neighborhood, as long as I can remember. And I'm also involved with the HOA in Wilchester West. And call me with any complaints that you have.
His number will stream across the bottom.
Not quite. We're not that technology savvy, but you never know. Listen, the reason we brought this group of guys here today is that they're all involved with the community, all involved with their families, and I think it's very, very important to bring that perspective to this podcast or the Porchcast. And so, you know, in the first quarter, we're going to be talking about academics, something which I don't think, you know, gets focused on enough, or at least it didn't when I was in school, you know, but that may be just me. You know, during the second quarter, we're going to have a look at the ways technology is impacting and changing the school life. I know that's done leaps and bounds since, you know, we were in high school or even college. And so whether it's AI or cell phones or getting Uber rides, I don't know, whatever we want to, you know, go in, you know, talk about, but it certainly had an impact. Then halftime, we're going to enjoy 2 types of ribs, courtesy of the Wilchester Meat Wagon in honor of Labor Day and all the Labor Day cookouts. And we're going to be catching up on some recent events and some upcoming events tied to WMC. And then in the third quarter, we're going to be talking about ways to build our kids' character. We're going to be talking about some thoughts on that. And I can honestly tell you that it is the number one focus for Cammie and I. We talk about it all the time. You know, how do we make sure that they are lifted up and being good people out there? And then finally, the fourth quarter, we're going to be talking about money. Everybody's most uncomfortable topic when it comes to kids and the future and college and all those sorts of things. So we're going to get into it and gonna unpack a few items there because boy are they expensive. Of course, we have our overtime topics. We got a couple of them here, and we're gonna hit these guys up with some questions about concerning today's topic. So with that, I think we're just gonna get into it with our first quarter. On the WMC Porchast, we will dive into current events within the Wilchester Men's Club and goings-on within the neighborhood, all in support of our mission of doing good. All right, guys. First quarter, we're going to be talking about academics, subject I don't need to be talking about. So I know, Josh, you are a teacher there at SBISD. I mean, balancing the academic calendar with everything you got going on. I mean, how do you guys do it? 3 kids.
Yeah, it's crazy. So our 2 daughters are heavily invested in a few different areas. I see a big value in the CTE program, which apparently a lot of people in the neighborhood do based on the fact that our bond just passed for $380 million. And
nice.
So that is...
What's CT?
CTE is career and technical education. And so I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what that looks like, and they think non-college seeking students is kind of, because when you think of that in the past, or at least when I was younger, it was kind of more suited towards the students who didn't plan to go to college.
Right.
And so the way it's set up now, though, is with technology evolving the way it has, in order to prepare yourself for not just a trade out of high school, but to prepare yourself to be ready to attempt college in engineering, technology, nursing, pharmaceutical, law enforcement. Those are all areas that you need a degree in order to participate in, but there's so Spring Branch has really approached it where they kind of have a threefold approach to it. They try to employ teachers that have high-grade industry knowledge. And a lot of them are people that worked in the industry and came to teaching later in life. So they have real-world experience. And then you have, they actually use industry-grade equipment. So when you're looking at, both of my daughters are really big into the vet med program. That's kind of the route they're taking. So they focus through FFA. But the evolution that we're rebuilding our barn right now as part of that grant, it's insane, the quality of the equipment that they're bringing in. That's just going to make a world of difference in the experience. I believe that a lot of times kids choose a college route without knowing much about what the real world...
Amen.
Yeah, what the real world aspect of that's going to look like. And our CTE program is really trying to... It's a benefit to our kids in this neighborhood. They're really trying to give them hands-on experience so they can see what it's like before they've spent 6 or 8 years going through college and preparing themselves for a job that when they put their hands in the business.
Did it take you 6 or 8 years to go through college?
That's a big 10. That's a big 10. That's a big 10. I frequented universities across many of our great states. Oh yeah.
Multi-state education.
That's
That
right.
is that's very
right.
rare. That's
Very
rarefied
broad.
air.
Very broad.
That's it.
Oh, what's your doctorate in?
Just to piggyback on that, though, like kids in college, 75% of kids in college change their major, and the number that change it 3 times is over 50%.
That's great.
Fool it.
Yeah. My wife has that same experience. She started as a costume design major and graduated with a degree in zoology, and now she's a CPA. So, it goes full.
Well, there's a lot more information out there about what it's like, I think, than when we were young. I mean, I grew up in a small town. I didn't know much about the business world. I mean, doctor, lawyer, engineer, that was pretty much the options that you heard about.
Dentist.
Dentist, excuse me. Well, that's under doctor.
Okay. All right. Well, I know.
But-
I don't.
No, yeah, you're not throwing shade. But no, seriously though, I mean, it's just there's so much more information. I'm glad to hear that the schools have that, because even when you were studying something in college, you had no idea what at least
What it
from my
looked
perspective,
like.
what it looked like when you got out.
Unless you had a family member that was a practicing doctor, you didn't really understand what medicine looked like.
Either that, or if you got an internship and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. So, and you spent 3 years studying that. So that's good to hear.
Well, how's the transition with the girls now in high school, balancing that with their activities and
Oh,
and the academics, all that sort of stuff.
So, I mean, academics are important to us, and we stress that in the home and really encourage them to do as well as possible. And everybody knows how hard it is to get into a good school these days, and you want the best for them when it comes to that. It's early on, so it's really tough to gauge what's going on. We give them a lot of freedom to study on their own and don't want to sit over their shoulder, because I don't think I've seen that in my own household when I was growing up, and I don't think that's very effective.
Not the lesson you want to teach them what life works.
Right. It doesn't. You're not going to have someone looking over your shoulder. But I had to give me a grade the other day. One got a high grade and one got like an 87. And we gave the one that gave an 87 a hard time just because it's your first grade. Those are probably the easiest tests that you're going to take. She's like, well, I can always get into Ole Miss. No offense to the Ole Miss people out there. But it's a family school. Family school. Yeah, hotty toddy. But it's a learning curve. I mean, what about you with a new high schooler?
It's been a big challenge, but she's got a lot of initiative, and like you said, can you make the space in your house or the time to just dedicate to academics? One of the things that we've been really trying to do is set schedule and doing time management. Something that I'm really good at procrastination. Like, I will wait to the last minute, and we're trying to break that cycle a little bit at our house and try to give them some opportunities to do what they need to do, in the sports, in the other types of components, but still give them that dedicated time to. Again, whether that's the third or second grader that needs to work on his writing, or whether it's a biology test, we're trying to make it. We're trying to dedicate that time.
Well, how do you manage that? I know that your daughter is in swim, and that sometimes you have to take her to school as early as like 4:30 in the morning. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah.
So
I'm waking up at 4:30.
I got to imagine. Well, I know you're exhausted, but I got to imagine she's exhausted when she gets home as well. So how does she find the energy, or when do you find the time to do all that?
One of the things at Stratford, I think, our experience here, again, I got a pretty narrow sample size, but there's a lot of collaboration, and there's a lot of time that they give the students to study.
Time.
Oh yeah, and even Spartan time, which I had to ask, what it was. Yeah. And it's that dedicated time at the beginning of the day, 20, 30 minutes, and, whatever it is, to make sure that is done.
Well,
so
it's beneficial because, like, even today, my senior, things fall through the cracks. And all of a sudden, we looked up and there was an email saying that senior portraits were being taken today between 9 and 3:30 in the library. And my senior was oblivious to this fact. And it's just, they drape a gown over you. You show up with nothing. But with 3 kids, things like that, Camden's getting up. It's just like swimming. Camden's getting up. She's raising a steer right now. For the past 4 years, the kids have raised animals. So every morning she's getting up before school and driving to the barn to feed and process her steer. And so she leaves the house at 6:10 in the morning. And so by the time she returns home, she's already gone back to the barn in the afternoon.
Oh, that's 2 days.
For the 3 days. She'll be back I'll be going to the barn when we finish this podcast with her.
Nice.
To let the dog out.
Nice.
To let the cow out. So,
that's some character building.
I was going to say, man, that just teaches responsibility of being responsible for not only yourself, but a huge animal.
And full disclosure, each one of those kids that owns an animal through FFA, it's a small business. They purchase the animal, they rent the space, they make all the profit. So they are taking a financial risk by purchasing the animal and paying for the food and everything throughout. But they all fill out tax paperwork to the idea of finances, and they each own their own small business.
That's awesome.
So and that is probably the best way that I've found to build character in them, is because it's their buy-in. They are responsible.
So we're gonna talk about some of that character building after the ribs. This is pre-ribs and post-ribs discussion, because it is going to be super important. But one of the other things you were talking about, the text you got today.
Yeah.
And obviously technology in schools. So we're going to move to the second quarter here. And the way technology is impacting the school is in every single way, from the apps to the syllabus to all the books. I mean, we're not even getting textbooks anymore. It's just incredible. And, you know, I don't know, again, Hopper, you've got the background in teaching.
Yeah.
You know,
So
what are you seeing out there?
what I'm seeing is that it's a double-edged thing. Technology has such benefits to the education process, and the availability of access. And where I really see it, teaching north of the freeway, is there's quite a bit of a divide in financial ability amongst our district. People may not see it in the hub of the Wilchester community, but there are, if your kids end up at Stratford or your kids end up going through different school routes, there's a lot of disparity in Spring Branch. A lot of people assume that every neighborhood looks just like ours, and that's not the case. And so where I see the biggest benefit of technology is it knocks down fences. That access to information and available information, and even you don't need a computer anymore.
Everybody has a phone. And I don't know, for parents with older kids, last year there were some big changes to the FAFSA, the application for financial aid. And it was never publicized, but one of the big reasons they made changes was to make it more accessible on phones to get more low-income families to actually apply, because not everybody has computers or internet at home, and they thought that was a hindrance to them actually applying. And by making it available on phones, they found that like the percentage of people who have the ability to apply now goes up substantially.
Even with all the technological advancements, which are great, and obviously there's a lot of information that comes out that you're getting via email or what have you, which sometimes is tough to keep up with as a parent. I can imagine it's tough for a student. But, I mean, you guys have older kids. One of the things I struggle with is how do you manage their time when they're on that phone versus to make sure that they're actually doing what they need to do? I mean, what do you guys do?
I mean, I'll take a swing at it. I try and set.
The phone is just that's that third rail, Cade. We're gonna go into it.
I try to take it away sometimes. They're like, I need it for my homework, and they're probably lying to me, but still.
So we have screen time, and so and we're able to take certain apps and associate. And this is all credit to my wife. This is how we group the apps into social or educational.
Okay.
And it's a blurred line. Lots of them are both. You know what I mean? But we try to alleviate a lot of that by separating them in a way so that the ones that are truly necessary, and Spring Branch, because of the Chromebooks, realistically, they don't need their phone to do any of it.
Right.
And is it more convenient to be able to sit in a comfortable and operate with their phone? Yes. But the Chromebook that they're issued is really all they need in order to do the educational.
Teacher told me.
Yeah. And so, throw it on me.
Teacher
Mr. Hopper said. Mr. Hopper. My name's going to go through the mud through all the kids in the neighborhood.
But you know what's crazy is the AI, man, and the language software. I mean, to be able to put a topic in, hey, write me 5 paragraphs on this. Don't make it sound too good. Use some normal language. I mean, you can tune that thing like a violin.
It's hard to fault a kid for using that because we as adults use that in our business.
And teachers, we don't fault them, and I think that's a big misconception when it comes to it, because the way teachers as a whole view it is our generation had to learn how to use search engines, and there's a correct verbiage to use when you're searching for something on the internet, whether it be Google, Edge, whatever it is that you're searching with. You use keywords in a certain way to elicit the response you're really looking for. AI is not that way. You have to treat AI more like a personal assistant. So it's because it's not just gathering things that are already made, it's producing new material. So you have to, the easiest way, if you're not familiar with AI, to think about it is it's like having a very capable intern. As long
That's
as you...
fair. I mean, I've heard that before. I mean, and I've done that where it's a capable intern. They can give you a first draft of a letter.
That's it.
Whatever.
I view it as ask questions for the Wilchester pool. That's
it could
very easily.
Very capable intern. Thank you very much.
But it's the way you describe your prompt. That's the key to AI. because AI can give you garbage. It can give you things that are way off topic because it's a endless amount of resources that it draws from. But if the skill set to using AI properly is learning how to input a prompt that will elicit the response you want. And it's something you learn over time. The biggest benefit for me as a teacher is I currently teach 185 different kids across 8 periods. There's not a single kid that has a individualized education plan that's a 504 student, a special ed student, a GT student, that I can't customize an entire setup for in a matter of 5 minutes. And it's not that teachers are lazy, it's that that's my starting point.
It's a good starting point, and that's, you know, I definitely see the value of that, and being able to be able to just manage more. I mean, I don't know. Are you seeing it with college apps, or what are you seeing?
So I've talked to a handful of college recruiters and people in the admissions office, and they like it in some regards because they're getting higher quality essays, but some have also said within 3 years, students are going to be required to handwrite an essay in a 30-minute window and deliver it that way to prevent the AI from like taking over. So there's a double-edged sword. Be careful what you wish for.
We're already seeing that in the FFA competitions now. They actually 2 years ago introduced.
We're going back to handwriting. They're going to have to know that cursive. 2 years ago. I knew that cue would help me out. That cursive cue.
Now they have a whole competition that gives you a 30-minute window with zero technology. So they give you a topic to write a speech on, and you've got 30 minutes off the top of the head to pull off this speech. Yeah. And it's but also it's like calculators. It's our generation of TI 82s or whatever, like
TI 85s.
Yeah, you go. It's our generation of. In real life, you're going to use that calculator. If you work in a trade that requires that type of calculation, it would behoove you to use the calculator. There's no reason not to.
Well, I mean, in our industry, we have like a lot of academic papers coming out of higher education, and we'll take those papers, put it through ChatGPT, and say, translate this to a 7th grade reading level. And then we share that with our clients that way. So it takes it from
backwards.
That is the experience of a lot of teachers. We write lessons and then we scale them down to the appropriate level. We're not having lessons written. We are scaling them down to the 30 different levels of readers we have in our classrooms.
Yeah. And it makes a difference. My son's got special needs, and like having a teacher who can modify those lessons successfully has changed his whole outlook on school. I mean, he had an issue with school avoidance, and now at least he goes every day, right? Like, that's just a huge win.
It's just approachable.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah, so...
the ability to feel comfortable for a student is massive. And to be honest, there's only so much in everybody's job. Whether you're a teacher or you work in any trade, you've only got so much bandwidth. And so your ability to utilize that to the highest potential to benefit as many people as possible is either going to make you a lot of money in certain trades, or it's going to turn out a lot of amazing students in other trades.
No, that's all. You guys have restored my faith in technology. It's the best thing I've heard all day. All right, so now we're going to go to halftime, which is time for the best thing we're going to eat and drink all day. So again, I want to, while the Wilchester Meat Wagon is setting up the dinner, I want to do a couple of plugs here for some of our sponsors. First of all, Cougar USA, number one in water control, which is, if you want to go see him on Fallbrook, right there at the Beltway, find out how they can meet your needs, please do so. We got Toro Studios, who is going to be editing today's Porchcast, does some amazing stuff there. And we've got the Buffalo Trace Rye Kosher Edition to pair nicely with our 2 sets of ribs. We got the Wilchester Meat Wagon original rub, right, Austin? And then we have a sesame honey version here. So, guys, let's dig in. This is, we got the nice crystal. Again, thank you to the Amy and Corey, our hosts for this evening.
Corey, thanks. Thank you, sir.
It's going to be some fall off the bone, I'm sure.
I have experience with Wilchester Meat Wagon, and
That was
he does
good.
quite well. He does
Yeah,
quite
man.
well.
It was fantastic. He was out there at the first Wilchester Men's Club happy hour. We had it last Thursday. Had a good crowd. I think almost 200 people there. And just
Is it time?
I'm pouring.
Go for it.
Heavy pour. We got the...
Well, I think the first time that the meat wagon came out, I think it may have been at a pecan bowl event.
Oh, you
where
do
it
breakfast,
had the
yeah.
breakfast tacos, and I think that was the first time a lot of the ladies in the neighborhood really kind of had their eyes turned up to it, because there was the powder puff game directly afterwards.
Puff.
So there was a big crowd there, and that was one of the first times I think it really caught fire with the whole neighborhood instead of just us guys.
Which I could keep it the best kept secret in the neighborhood, but I know, it's a great opportunity, great local business here. I'll tell you, Hopper, when we used to go to the happy hours, you were always behind the grill. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, we got two new people, Hugh and Corey, Hugh Ramsey and Corey Baden, who are our social chairs this year, and they're knocked it out of the park with the first happy hour. Like almost 200 people there.
Food was fantastic.
You're being modest, though. I've seen you get quite involved in that those cooking processes as well, though. So
I do like to cook.
Yeah.
I have some fermenting salsas going on right now.
Oh,
From your local garden? The Murray Garden?
the Murray Field.
Yeah, man. We got I got a jalapeno and a habanero. Habanero, we went over to the farmer's market for that, but there's a lot of foodies in the neighborhood, which we are going to do so what our plan is for our sponsors and the legends, we're going to do a Porchcast that is going to be the food episode of the Porchcast. It's
Oh,
a
the
live
branding
audience
opportunity.
Yeah, man. We're gonna get a live audience out. We're still picking some dates, but I think it's gonna be good.
No more Chili Fest, just best cook in the neighborhood fest. Let's see what's going on.
Well, I will say that was one of the hidden outcomes of COVID, is the number of people I know in the neighborhood that started their own little small gardens. I know that for my 3 kids, we did elevated gardens, and we built one for each kid, and we let them choose what they wanted to plant in them. And it was because there was so much at-home time that it really kind of transitioned into a good learning opportunity, and frankly, the opportunity to instill a little work ethic and a little bit of, outcome for it. And there's nothing like growing something to be able to see the outcome of your.
I did something similar. Burry's wife is a really good gardener, and we text about it, and she sends all these pictures of the various things that she's grown. It's beautiful, and I have my one tomato. I spent $400 today.
Yeah. It's not always a return on investment as a home garden.
It's not.
It's all about the time.
It's fun.
It's all about the time.
I need to pay more attention to it.
The one tomato or the one potato. That's the world's most expensive potato. So we're trying the Buffalo Trace kosher. It's very, very good. It's got a good fit. Cade's quite the connoisseur of bourbons. How's that one?
I do, but it's very good. I like bourbon quite a bit, and this one's a very tasty one.
I like the bourbon.
Not too much to eat on the end. No,
it is.
So it's got a good flavor.
It's drinkable.
I mean, you really were going to set up a bourbon podcast, though. You're like, hey, what's it taste like? Well, it tastes like fucking bourbon.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, guys, we're gonna part ways. We're still gonna be chewing on these bones for sure. But I want to move to the third quarter. We kind of hinted it during the first half, which was ways to build character. And I know, listen, I feel like maybe we focus a lot on guys, but your girls incredible growing up. What are you guys doing? What are you and Swayze doing to help try to instill that character in them?
So, I mean, that's a great question, right? I mean, Swayze's a big component of that. I can't take nearly as much credit as she can, but obviously being involved in activities, encouraging them into leadership roles, but also really just from a personal standpoint, giving them as much rope as they can handle and trying not to be just overbearing or helicopter parent about it, and just seeing if they'll do it on their own, and then providing the emotional support or whatever they need when things don't go the way that they think that they should.
That's one of the biggest difficulties, though, as a parent, especially a
What, fix
father
it?
that wants to protect their little girls and make sure everything's all right. Like it's that's one of the biggest struggles that I have, is giving enough leash to let them fail.
Trust me, one of my daughters was talking about a boy the other day and said he's a God-fearing man. I was like, the only thing a 15-year-old boy thinks about is God. Please forgive me for what I'm about to do.
That's right.
There's no doubt about it. We were all 15 at one point. Oh my God.
We've all been there.
Exactly. But again, to me, it's you can encourage them to do whatever they want. They're going to do. They're ultimately their individual person, but just being there to support them and give them input when they need it, and trying not to force it on them, is really what I think, from my perspective, has worked well with us. And we're very lucky that we've had two daughters that are really involved and want to be involved and are really excited about what they do at Stratford. So we're lucky parents that way.
So when you talk about involvement, what's an organization in the that you see a lot of the neighborhood families being involved in that you would recommend, that you've seen positive outcomes?
Certainly.
Like, what would you suggest?
Certainly from the girls' perspective, I mean, National Charity League has been a big one. I mean, there's been a lot of community service, what have you. They're very involved in the church, in the youth group, which I think is, really beneficial for all of them, not only from a personal but a spiritual standpoint. And those are two of the big organizations that my children have been involved in that I've seen them benefit from. What about you guys?
Kate, even back to the Indian princesses.
Yes.
I mean, which
God,
was
I loved Indian princesses.
is a
Great.
loose
I'd like
organization.
to continue to do it.
What
I'd like to continue to do it.
yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't show up, the dads can help.
The dads may just be there without the girls, but
Well, even when the Wilchester Men's Club provides opportunities for philanthropic things, whether it's through Family Point or building beds and delivering them, the number of kids I see show up,
oh, so good.
and the outcome I see and the look on their faces, because it's a shot of reality. And in general, both of my daughters are in NCL. One of the things I love about NCL is the fact that the moms are so involved.
They are.
And so it's in our family particularly, because being a teacher, the dynamics are a little shifted in my household. My wife is the breadwinner of my family. She is a executive. And so in lots of the families in our neighborhood, maybe it's the father that's spending a lot of time working and pulling that role, and it turns into a looking for opportunities for them to be involved with the daughter. In my family dynamics, it's my wife has to really commit, and it's more of an effort for her to be able to plug in with the kids when it comes to things of that nature. I'm available. I'm home a lot more often. I'm off for 3 months in the summer. So as a teacher, it's
Don't sell
easy
yourself
for
short.
me.
You're off all 12.
That's right. But I see NCL as a great opportunity for them to get involved in that, and then centered more on the boys. My son was really big into Cub Scouts and now into Boy Scouts. So I see that as one of the biggest attributes I think a young man can have, is reaching that level of Eagle Scouts. I've had too many
That's
recruiters, and I've had too many people that are in deciding positions tell me that there's a stack that Eagle Scout gets you into that you don't get into unless you're an Eagle Scout. With the
I've
people that
definitely
you have
heard-
contacts with?
Definitely heard a lot about that. And, just to expand a little bit on the Wilchester Men's Club. So we do the cleanup at Wilchester School on the playground or whatever. But to me, the best thing about that is taking my son, and he has to interact with all these other dads and realize, okay, hey, every one of these guys is going to know who I am. If I'm messing around in the neighborhood, they're going to be able to correct
Accountability.
me. Yeah, but then the dads also take a moment to treat them like growing young men and young adults and interact with them. And to me, that just interaction is so valuable and so underrated that a lot of people don't always get. So I'm just grateful to the club for things like that.
That's getting back to the beauty of just the Wilchester neighborhood, in my opinion. The small town feel in the big city where you are accountable because people know who you are, and it gets back pretty quick to your parents if you're doing something you're not supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys see my kids out doing something, I want you to treat them like your own. If you say my kid can't do that, then treat them like yours and tell me about it later.
I feel that's
Snitches get stitches.
Mr. White.
It's all anonymous. But you guys bring up some great points. And, I mean, again, involvement in clubs, the dad's involvement, like you said, Hopper, and Chuck, you were talking about bringing them out to different things. And, I mean, we're, like I said at the opener, we're always looking for ways to, again, improve that. But I would say this to anybody, just that whole idea of having dad involvement in their kids. And I know you guys specifically, you work with a lot of people who may not have that benefit. And I think that's a huge piece of the character pie is having, engagement with both parents.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys have older children, and I've noticed as mine are getting older, especially now that they're getting into high school, there's more freedom. They obviously have rides to go somewhere. I get it. And we all remember what that was like. But there's obviously less time that they want to spend with you, right? And they want to be out with their friends. And it's understandable. But how do you still manage the family time and that involvement with them?
It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of activities. My daughter, she's on the golf team at Stratford, so at least once a month I try and play 18 holes with her, which is like four hours together. And, a lot of it's quiet or her complaining about how bad I am at golf or whatever.
Fair enough.
But,
We can spend 36 holes on that with me. So lucky you're only 18.
Yeah. So, that. And then we always try and reinforce, like, we'll give you freedom until you give us a reason not to. So we try and, give her enough freedom to do the things she wants, but set at least reasonable expectations up front that she has responsibilities. She's got service to others, not just herself. Stuff like that. I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, it does.
So it's the same balance with us. Like, so I've actually found that my senior, at some point, she crossed the hill, and the time we spend with her is more quality time than it was when she was maybe in her freshman year. Or I feel like there's a level of appreciation for your effort that comes with a little bit more maturity that kind of comes in as they start to age a little bit. They start to see how things really work in the world a little more. And honestly, especially that's one of the benefits of Stratford is that they see a little bit more broader picture. The kids that went to school at Wilchester and then went through Memorial or Spring Forest, they've been a little sheltered, to be honest, because our neighborhood, part of the reason why we love our neighborhood is because it's a little bit of a utopia here in the middle of Houston. When they get to Stratford, we adore Stratford, but it's a little more real world. There's a little bit more of the rest of what's going on there. And I think they kind of come to the conclusion that not everyone has the same experience they have, and they start to show a level of appreciation for the opportunities and the involvement that you've invested in them. It's and maybe that's kid to kid, but I'm starting to see it as my kid's starting to realize she's about to be leaving to go to, she's off to Austin to UT. She's starting to realize that this is a window that's closing. And I see that in the way she handles herself and the way she approaches conversations that she doesn't want to have with us, where it used to be maybe a little more whining or maybe a little bit more of a unappreciative attitude.
Right.
I see that, like, it comes. It comes as they get a little older. It comes where they get to a level where they understand what you're doing for them. And I don't know. There's a peace that comes over them, I think, as they get a little older.
I am hoping the 5 a.m. is going to be appreciated. I think it is. I think it is.
For sure.
But listen, I want to move to the fourth quarter, which is the financial realities of college. Because, again, whether it's eggs and cheese going up or your tuition and room and board's going up, it's something that we all are going to face. And Chuck, I know you got a lot of experiences. I'd love to hear your thoughts and, you're kind of talking about some of the financial realities of this. Again, whether it's a 4-year university, a trade school, a 2-year university, I mean, it's cost money.
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids moving back home with me. I'll be honest with you. I want to, whatever it is,
Go forth and be prosperous.
go forth. That's right.
And the flip side of that is financial responsibility for parents, right? I'll be the first to admit, like, it's super hard for me to tell my daughter no. All she has to do is come up and be like, Daddy, please. And I'm the biggest sucker. I melt every time. But, like, when you think of it in terms of college, there's a reality that if I pay for college that's $100,000 a year, $400,000 over 4 years, and don't save for retirement, there's a chance I'll be living in her basement in 15 years, not the other way around.
Converse right there.
Yeah,
That's true.
So, that's one of the things we talk about. And what do you guys think of when I say the number 216, if anything?
260?
216.
Average college tuition over 4 years?
Nope, it's the number of months from the time they're 0 till they leave for college. So if you think about college costing $30,000 a year at UT, A&M, give or take, it's $120,000 a year. That means you got to save $500, almost $600 a month, every month from the time they're born till they're 18 to be able to pay for college.
Per child.
Per child. So if you have 2, that's $1,000 a month, 3, $1,500 a month, 4, $2,000 a month. So the reality of being able to save that much for most families is sketchy. Yeah, sketchy at best. When I talk to families, the things I try and reinforce is like, actually have a budget. What do you have saved? What can you afford to pay out of cash flow? And what will your expected career out of college allow you to pay back? So there's 3 components that go into it. And if you can, like, I have a spreadsheet that I can show a family that shows, okay, hey, if you're going to make $100,000 when you graduate from college and you borrow $100,000, you can afford those loan payments. But if you're going to make $100,000 and you borrow $120,000, you're now negative $200 a month every month in addition.
That's the thing. The college, like, you take a loan out, they're gonna be underwater. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's and whether it's an undergrad loan or a grad school or a PhD or whatever it is, I mean, it's a ton. And the debt service on that,
I got to think everybody in our neighborhood wants to do for their child more than what their dad
more than
did
what
for
that's
themselves,
true. That's
right?
true.
And so that probably includes for the majority of people paying for college, if not some people postgraduate degrees, right? Mm-hmm. But it's scary to think about how much all that's going to cost, because you really even when you talk about tuition, and then there's housing, and then they're in a sorority, and then there's just hey, I don't have any money to go out, and you're like,
it's walking around money.
Yeah, walking around money. I need a little walking around,
a little pocket change.
All those things, like, I don't think. I mean, it. You can budget for it, but until you actually reach it, I don't know that you really fully understand it.
No, I definitely don't think so. And like, just show of hands or throw out a number. What do you think sorority dues at University of Arkansas or CU Boulder cost a year?
Are you giving an ABCD for showing?
So I'm guessing your sorority dues are at $40K.
$6,000 a year. I mean,
$6 a year.
$6 a year.
$6 a year. So across 4 years. That's
Yeah. So I mean, those prices, everything adds up. It's tough. But the one thing I'd add, though,
making it rain.
Give me some positive here.
I know.
Like, how am I going to make this work?
I guess one positive I would say is I've probably helped 2,000 people over the last 10 years either consider like the payoff of their loans or what's colleges to go to. And out of those 2,000 people, I haven't heard anybody tell me they regret where they went to college.
Yeah.
But I've had tons and tons of people tell me they regret how much they borrowed to go to college.
Okay. That's fair.
So, like, as a parent, obviously, I think you said it, we all want to give our kids more than we had. But the reality is there's tons of good schools, and you can send them to a great school. They'll have a great outcome. It's more about how they participate than the name brand or name recognition. And just think about that when you're building your college list and setting expectations, and make sure you've got some schools in the middle of the road.
So, just out of curiosity, since you do what you do, I mean, you're obviously on the financial side, but you're dealing with colleges. Degrees that kids should avoid. Can you ABC go?
Sanskrit.
Latin, any language that is no longer spoken. I'm going to tell you, maybe education.
Come on now.
I think a lot of times, so I work in financial services, and at different points in my time, I've hired a lot of people. We look at the degree as proving that you can finish something, that you have the ability to learn new things, that you can kind of see a project through. So those are things that, like, if you learn in college, I don't think the degree is quite as important as you think. I think there's naturally some that transition more into certain careers than others, engineering, nursing, different veterinary school, different things like that. But if you can study whatever you want and prove you can learn, that it can transition into almost any job. I mean,
that's one of the things my wife has really tried to teach my daughter, that is that the important part is, and when, to be honest, we lean into business. And so my daughter had always wanted to be a vet. And so now she's transitioning into a pediatric neurologist, because we happen to be friends with a couple of ped neurologists in the city of Houston that are longtime friends. And so she sees that as a viable option, because she's seen people walking around that have that profession. And so
I don't know. I need to get better friends.
We have an amazing men's club member, Justin Morgan.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, but the idea
does not strike you as a nurse.
He doesn't. He doesn't. Yeah. But but the idea is,
no offense, Justin.
No offense. I love you, bud. Go West Side.
Go Peacocks.
Peacocks. But the idea is that you just really have to prove that you can. To what you said, you really just have to prove you can work your way through it. And college, in my opinion, is you are proving that you can work with a group of people to work on group projects, that you can stick to something, and you can deal with supervisors, because a college professor is no different than a immediate supervisor.
So if my kid graduates with a gender equality degree, you think that's
there are limits to that example. There are limits to that example. But that's why we steer them to business.
No, I know that is good.
Even if my daughter goes into pediatric neurology, she needs a strong business background. Absolutely. So we actually suggest, and the way we're working through UT's application is that we suggest that she go with a business major, and then by that time, when you go into grad school, you're going into a more solid direction.
No,
you can take lots of science courses as a business major. It's hard to have a business sense without some background in it. And too many people are experts in their field and very naive about general finance. Yeah. So that's kind of the direction that the approach that we've taken is, you need general finance skills no matter what direction you go.
Yeah. And one thing I'd throw on there, when you talk about advanced degrees, if you think about financial aid and how schools and government give out the money that help you pay for college, if you know you're going for an advanced degree, I highly, highly recommend you go to the least expensive undergrad school that will get you to the program you want to be in, because there's no financial aid or grants typically for advanced degrees. Like if you go to vet school, you're paying out of pocket or borrowing for vet school. So save that money that you could have, gone to SMU at $100,000, go to A&M at $30,000, and use the rest for your grad school degree. So that's something to think about if you know you're going to take that advanced degree route.
That's valuable.
No, man, that's awesome. That's all. Listen, when it comes down to it, kids are expensive. This is going to be more expensive, and you're just getting into it. So, all right. Wrapping that up, I want to move to overtime. So we had a couple of overtime questions. I think based on this conversation, you guys are all, like I said, or we are all very family-centric individuals. So, again, we've talked about the money, the kids, the activities, building character. it's important to focus on the relationship with your spouse. So I'll ask you, Cade White. The question is, what do you do to reconnect? What do you do to stay connected with your spouse during this craziness of school and everything that's going on?
I'll say it's not easy, right? You've got activities almost every night that you've got to take someone to.
Right.
You've got Thursday nights accounted for. You might have Friday nights accounted for. They may have something on Saturday, right? It's just, to me, it's finding something that she likes, taking her out to dinner, whatever it is. Just trying to find something, if you can, once a week. But if not,
it's a big ask. It's a big ask.
It is.
As often
It's a goal,
as often as you can, because ultimately, like, I can see how stressed my wife gets with all the things that she undertakes because she's allowing me to do what I need to do to
That's fair.
to provide for the family. But it's tough, and I personally, we like to go out and do things, and maybe now that I'm a little bit older, when the A&M game's at 11 o'clock Saturday night's all for her. So it's just little things that she wants to do to have fun. To me, are just important to make sure you put that out there, because otherwise you're just stressed because you're dealing with kids the entire time.
What about you, Josh? How do you, Melissa, stay connected?
So I
Other
find
than
it's
at the FFA barn.
That's
You
right.
can't.
That's right. Can't all be barred. So I find that there's kind of two things that and I won't claim to be an expert at this. I could be way better. I'm sure we all could at all this. The two things that kind of come to mind are, one is the small things. The Post-it notes left on the desk. The writing with a dry erase marker on the mirror, or just a little.
Are you just trying to make us look bad?
Jesus Christ, I'm over here taking notes. What the hell? Like,
No, trust me, it doesn't always work.
Every woman is watching this like,
No,
oh my God,
no.
Josh Hopper.
No, it is. So let me be honest with you. It's the things that I can do that require us not being together when they happen, but she feels together when she sees them. And I feel like that's a big plug into that. Is
That's
that
nice. That's
it's
really
hard
awesome.
to match up schedules. If you can find ways to do things that when she does see them, she feels like y'all are together, even though you can't make the time to be together right then, that's a really, really big deal. But I also play the opposite role, once again, of you guys. Is that
but that
Yeah.
nailed. You
You're
can't
busy
sell
as well.
anymore.
Yeah,
you're
Chuck,
busy
you
as
got to
well.
follow that right there. There's no good
little
luck.
things.
Good
Doesn't
luck.
have to, money doesn't have to be involved. It's little things that
Yeah, I like
find
that a lot.
carry the weight.
Yeah, so for me, I found that, like, if I only make her ask 4 times, but not 5 before I can do things,
That's what I can learn.
My man.
That's what I can learn.
I mean,
That's
if
what
I
can
get
learn.
it done before the 5th time, that goes a long way.
The stump still turned halfway
Oh my
over
God.
in my backyard from the last storm that I haven't cut up into pieces.
But you put
That-
a Post-it note on
I
it.
put a Post-it note on that
God.
thing.
Hey, I'm gonna get to that.
No.
That is, yes.
But my wife's great. She does all the heavy lifting on that part. I just kind of go through life with my head down and try and, say yes to whatever she needs. But the one big thing I think that we have done really good is our kids go off to camp every summer. Our daughter goes to Pine Cove. Our son goes to Camp Olivia. They're gone for 2-3 weeks. And we really try and take that time to do as much as we can together.
That's
so
awesome.
Take time off from work. We'll just go to day games at the Astros, or we've even got a Typhoon, Texas without the kids. Just random stuff.
To yell at other kids.
Yeah.
That's right.
We miss it. We
Just
miss
sticking
it.
my fist at somebody.
Sit there and drink at the bar and throw the cans at the little kids when they go by. No,
Win,
but
win.
I mean, but no.
They like
Edit
dodging
that out.
Skittles.
Edit that out.
I wish I had a better answer.
Dude, that is a
but
great answer.
I
I wish
just
I had a
wish
better
I
answer to
really-
this. I got to tell you guys, we like going on walks in the morning and having coffee. Like, just with COVID-19, COVID, you have a lot more flexibility. Luckily, I have an office that's really close by. We try to do the small stuff. I mean, what you were describing, Josh, about Post-it notes and stuff. I'm going to be stealing those things here pretty soon. But just dedicating some time. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Now, when we started doing the Porchcast, I've started listening to different podcasts, and there's a lot of good marriage ones out there. Just coming up with some good ideas, whether it's having those intentional conversations. I've even written down.
I make lists all the time.
Yeah, make lists of things
that
you
to
want
be mindful. You have to.
You got to be, and that's what it was.
Well,
It was for me.
To be
That
honest, some of it's greedy on my own terms, and I have to admit that. I have to figure out what I want in order to tell anyone how to treat me. And I have to figure out what is effective to figure out what to continue doing to make anyone else
You know what? That's the difference, because my wife will tell me what she wants. She doesn't have to think about it. She just does it all the time.
it's like
No,
breathing.
seriously, I love you, Swayze. But yeah, I mean, look, again, at the end of the day, I think everyone has made a good point. Small things, vacations when you have an opportunity, just little things to let them know that you're considering what they're going through and not just thinking about yourself, I think are really the most important things. But finding those special moments that both you and her enjoy. I mean, heck, if we have a free Friday night, I mean, I don't know if I want to say this out loud, but we may just sit there and drink a couple ranch waters together and watch something and just enjoy being in each other's company.
Yeah. Enjoy being No, it is so important.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you being here. With guys on the couches, listen, Cade and Josh and Chuck. And again, I'm John Burry. This was a lot of fun tonight. It was so exciting to be able to have the ribs here.
Amazing.
Listen, Cougar USA, thank you so much. Toro Studios for being here, and the Wilchester Men's Club for being a part of this. Hope to see you out at the next event, and we'll talk soon. Thanks guys.
Sport.